Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most shocking and talked about events in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. A massive Ukrainian strike has reportedly caused panic and confusion inside Russia, shaking both the military command and political establishment. What happened, why it happened, and what it means for the future of this war, we're breaking it all down right here. Stay tuned till the end because this one changes everything. Over the past few months, Ukraine has been intensifying its long-range strike capabilities, targeting critical Russian infrastructure far behind the front lines. But this latest attack has taken things to an entirely new level. According to multiple reports, Ukrainian forces launched a massive and coordinated strike that hit several high-value targets deep inside Russian territory, causing widespread damage and triggering emergency responses across multiple regions. The scale and precision of the attack have left Russian officials scrambling. This wasn't just another drone raid or artillery exchange near the border. This was a multi-pronged strike that caught Russian defenses completely off guard. Early details suggest that Ukraine used a combination of long-range drones, cruise missiles, and possibly even Western-supplied weapons systems. The sheer coordination and timing indicate weeks of careful planning and intelligence gathering. Witnesses on social media reported huge explosions lighting up the night sky across several Russian cities. Air raid sirens blared for hours as Russian anti-air systems tried to intercept the incoming projectiles. Videos posted online showed massive fireballs, secondary explosions, and thick smoke rising from military facilities and fuel depots. For many Russians, it was a chilling reminder that the war they had been watching from afar was now literally hitting home. Inside Moscow, sources claim there was immediate panic at the highest levels. Emergency meetings were held through the night, and military commanders were reportedly instructed to boost air defenses around key installations. The Kremlin's initial reaction was muted, but state media quickly began rolling out explanations, some blaming Western involvement, others insisting that most of the incoming strikes had been intercepted. But satellite images and independent footage tell a different story. Analysts say this strike represents a turning point. For the first time, Ukraine demonstrated the ability to hit multiple deep targets simultaneously, challenging Russia's sense of security. It sends a clear message: nowhere is safe, not even hundreds of kilometers from the front lines. And the panic that followed inside Russia is proof that this message was received loud and clear. Many experts believe this operation was Ukraine's response to the relentless Russian bombardment of Ukrainian cities and infrastructure. For months, Ukraine's energy grid, ports, and residential areas have been under constant missile and drone attacks. This latest move could be seen as strategic retaliation, not just symbolic, but designed to weaken Russia's logistical and military backbone. By targeting fuel depots, radar stations, and ammunition facilities, Ukraine is striking at the very heart of Russia's war machine. What's particularly interesting is the technology behind this operation. Ukraine has been steadily developing its own long-range drones and missiles, often modifying older Soviet-era weapons with new guidance systems. Combined with intelligence support from Western allies, these systems are becoming increasingly precise. This strike demonstrated not only Ukraine's growing technical skill but also its determination to take the fight deep into enemy territory. In Russian cities close to the impact zones, panic spread rapidly. People rushed to bomb shelters, social media channels flooded with unverified reports, and emergency hotlines were overwhelmed. The sudden realization that their country's powerful military couldn't guarantee protection from Ukrainian attacks created a wave of anxiety across the population. It was something the Kremlin had tried hard to avoid: the psychological shock of vulnerability. State-controlled media outlets initially downplayed the incident, calling it a failed Ukrainian provocation, but the visuals were impossible to suppress. Large plumes of smoke rising from key industrial facilities contradicted official statements. Later, Russian officials were forced to admit that several locations had indeed been hit, though they insisted the damage was minor. However, satellite imagery and independent analysis revealed significant destruction, particularly at a military fuel storage facility and a command post used for coordinating operations in southern Ukraine. This situation has also triggered internal debates within Russia's military community. Hardliners are calling for massive retaliatory strikes, while others are quietly questioning how such a large-scale attack could have penetrated Russian defenses. It's a question that many are afraid to ask publicly, but one that's dominating private discussions. If Ukraine can reach this far today, what can it do tomorrow? Across Russian social media, panic and anger were palpable. Citizens shared videos of explosions, smoke, and intercepted drones, while criticizing the government for failing to protect them. Some called it a national humiliation. The sense of invincibility that Russian propaganda has carefully built over the years seems to be crumbling. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, the mood is very different. The strike is being celebrated as a major victory and a symbol of national strength. Ukrainian officials have not formally claimed responsibility, sticking to their usual policy of strategic ambiguity, but several military insiders hinted that this was indeed a Ukrainian operation. The message, they say, is clear: if Russia continues its terror campaign against Ukrainian civilians, it will face consequences on its own soil. The timing of this strike is also critical. Winter is approaching, and both sides are preparing for a new phase of the war. For Ukraine, striking deep into Russia serves multiple purposes. It disrupts supply chains, lowers morale, and forces Russia to divert air defense resources away from the front. For Russia, it creates a new dilemma: whether to focus on defending its borders or continue offensive operations in Ukraine. International reactions have been cautious but notable. Western leaders praised Ukraine's resilience while avoiding direct acknowledgement of involvement. Analysts in Washington and London described the strike as strategically brilliant, showcasing Ukraine's ability to adapt under pressure. In contrast, Russian allies like Belarus and Iran expressed concern, warning that such actions could escalate the conflict further. But even among Russia's partners, there's a growing sense of unease. If Moscow can't secure its own territory, how strong is it really? Economically, the effects were immediate. Russian energy markets showed instability, with oil prices fluctuating due to fears of disrupted production. The ruble dipped briefly as investors reacted to the uncertainty. In some cities, panic buying began as rumors spread about possible retaliatory blackouts or military mobilization. It's a reminder that modern warfare doesn't just play out on the battlefield, it affects economies, politics, and societies at every level. The Kremlin now faces a major public relations challenge. Admitting vulnerability risks damaging the narrative of strength that Vladimir Putin has built around his leadership. But denying reality is becoming harder with each new attack. Russian citizens are beginning to ask uncomfortable questions: how could this happen, and what comes next? Military analysts suggest that this strike was also meant to test Russia's air defense systems. By launching drones and missiles from multiple directions, Ukraine forced Russian radar and anti-aircraft units to respond simultaneously, revealing their weaknesses. The data collected from this attack will likely inform future Ukrainian operations. In essence, it wasn't just a strike, it was reconnaissance through action. At the same time, this event has likely shaken Russia's military planners. If key fuel depots and command centers are within reach, it means the logistics supporting Russia's frontline troops are more vulnerable than ever. Supply disruptions could slow down Russian advances and limit their operational flexibility. In modern warfare, logistics are everything, and Ukraine knows that very well. Inside Ukraine, morale has soared. For a country that has endured relentless bombardment, blackouts, and hardship, news of such a successful operation feels like a turning point. It reinforces the idea that Ukraine is not just defending itself but actively changing the balance of power. The psychological impact is enormous, both for Ukrainians who see hope and for Russians who now see fear. As for the global stage, this event will likely influence future military aid decisions. Western countries have been debating whether to provide Ukraine with longer-range weapons such as ATACMS missiles or advanced drones. This successful operation could serve as proof that Ukraine can use such weapons effectively and responsibly. It strengthens Kyiv's case for more support. Of course, Russia won't sit quietly. In the days following the attack, reports emerged of intensified missile strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure, including power grids and industrial zones. Moscow is trying to reassert dominance, to remind the world that it still has the means to retaliate massively. But each retaliation also exposes more of its weaknesses: its dependency on outdated technology, its logistical vulnerabilities, and the growing discontent within its own ranks. There's also speculation that this panic might trigger political ripples inside Russia. Public dissatisfaction, economic strain, and military embarrassment are a volatile mix. Some opposition figures are already calling for accountability, though in Russia, such voices are quickly silenced. Still, the underlying tension is building. The longer the war drags on, the harder it becomes for the Kremlin to maintain control over both the narrative and the people. International observers are watching closely. The European Union has already signaled that new sanctions could be on the table if Russia escalates further. Meanwhile, NATO intelligence is reportedly monitoring Russian troop movements for signs of panic redeployment. There's growing concern that Moscow's desperation could lead to reckless decisions, something that could expand the conflict even more dangerously. What's undeniable is that Ukraine's message has been delivered with unmistakable clarity. This wasn't just about physical damage, it was psychological warfare. By striking deep into Russian territory, Ukraine has shattered the illusion of safety that Moscow has cultivated. The panic, confusion, and fear inside Russia are now as much a part of the battlefield as any tank or missile. The world is entering a new chapter in this war. Both sides are adapting, learning, and escalating in ways that were unthinkable just a year ago. Technology, intelligence, and resolve are shaping the outcome more than sheer numbers. Ukraine's ability to strike with precision and purpose shows that this is no longer a one-sided conflict. The power dynamics are shifting, and Russia's panic is proof of that shift. As the situation continues to evolve, one thing is certain: this massive strike has changed perceptions on both sides. Ukraine has shown it can take the fight to the enemy, and Russia has been forced to face the reality of its own vulnerability. Panic is not just an emotion, it's a sign of lost control, and for the Kremlin, that could be the most dangerous development of all. In the coming weeks, we'll likely see more fallout from this operation. There will be new military responses, new propaganda campaigns, and new attempts to shift the narrative. But no matter how the Kremlin tries to spin it, the damage has already been done, not just to infrastructure, but to Russia's sense of invulnerability. The shockwave from this event will echo far beyond the immediate explosions. Ukraine, on the other hand, will likely continue pushing this momentum. The strike has proven what determination, innovation, and resilience can achieve even against a larger enemy. It's a symbol of how modern warfare is changing, where intelligence, precision, and psychological strategy can outweigh brute force. For the people caught in the middle, both Ukrainians and Russians, the human cost remains immense. Behind every explosion are lives disrupted, families displaced, and communities living in fear. But amidst the chaos, there's also a story of courage and defiance. Ukraine's fight is not only for territory but for survival and freedom, and this strike is one more chapter in that struggle. As more details emerge, analysts will continue dissecting the tactics and implications, but one fact is already clear: Russia has been shaken like never before. The panic sweeping through its political and military circles marks a historic moment in this conflict. What comes next could redefine not just this war, but the future balance of power in Europe. Thank you all for watching. If you found this video informative, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming analysis on how this situation unfolds. Stay safe, stay informed, and see you in the next one.